Vector Detector. It made sense that they chose Vector over Blaze or Silver because he's a detective, so he has actual story potential. I think the only thing Blaze and Silver would do was fight robots. We start out with Amy happily saying good morning to everything, being uncharacteristically happy for Boom Amy. I'd like Amy if she was like this all the time. Then all of a sudden she panics because her hammer's gone. That sounds familiar. And she's a parody of herself saying that her hammer's all she is. So they ripped off the comic. And Knuckles says she's useless without her hammer. Fleetway Amy doesn't have one, and she's much better off for it. Fuck you, show. Of all the things they could have had a character lose. Eggman says he doesn't have her hammer, and Tails shows arrogance, and the heroes get threatened by some circular portal spears. Why the hell doesn't Tails just give her a crossbow or ray gun? Why doesn't Styx give her a bow? She had one earlier. I'm glad she ran away crying. And Knuckles says that he can't help that he's insightful. Finally, Knuckles gives her a bunch of hand-to-hand combat weapons. I'm guessing the horrible, predictable humor will be that she'll suck at all that again. Or the show will show restraint and skip that because Vector shows up. He has a really high-paying reality show for once. And Amy hired him to look for her worthless hammer. And Sonic looks for clues in a blue blur. Yeah, so why doesn't he run all over the island in 3 seconds and find the hammer for Amy? We don't need Vector. But at least he's being cool and portrayed with respect. He finds the footprints and follows where Amy last was, so he goes to Medburger and asks Dave about the VIP card. Sonic awesomely grabs him by the shirt collar, as I wish Amy was open-minded enough to at least let Styx teach her how to use a bow. But no, she'd suck at aiming it, even though Amy sounds like aim. It could be so much more useful to aim a projectile weapon all sorts of different things. Vector somehow failed to find her hammer after following her tracks. So somehow, the writer failed to portray him as competent. I thought he would find her hammer and the whole episode would be about him. After Comedy Chimp makes a whole reality show about himself when interviewing a thug, the next morning we see Comedy Chimp's picture damaged, and Vector wonders if that exact thug had damaged it with Amy's hammer. So they have a stakeout after Sonic assumes he has no evidence at all. After all, it could be anyone, damaging it with anything. Oh, that was Justin Bieber, not a random thug from the Lightning Bolt Society. That's how forgettable Justin's design is. He's not even a blonde. It turns out he's just in a book club, and he's keeping it a secret from his vapid fanbase. The next morning, someone finds something for Vector, and Sonic asks who eats a pie from the middle. Well, someone with a spoon, who doesn't want to eat it with their hands, I guess. Vector throws a pie festival to see which person who gathered eats their pie from the middle out. So nobody does. And Sonic mocks him and says that the only thing they learned was that the villagers ignore tip jars. Then Comedy Chimp throws a pie at someone on a show, so how does he get anyone on his show anymore? And then Vector asks the crowd who has a VIP card, a grudge against Comedy Chimp, and a love of throwing pies. He decides to accuse the person who had a pie thrown at him. And somehow Vector turns out to be right, and Amy's hammer was in the chest. Even though the picture of Comedy Chimp was damaged a night before this guy showed up. Vector then questions why the guy would steal something for his routine that's so recognizable, wondering if he'd pinned the wrong guy. At least they're trying to frame him as cool with the music, and the magnifying glass showing up in front of his eye. They didn't have to do that. Why can't Sonic X have portrayed him like this? But even then, why is he so incompetent until the end? Even Penders never wrote Vector as incompetent, just mean. This is a brand new continuity, why do they have to make him a detective? Vector asks who had a grudge against Justin and access to the guy's chest. So he accuses the guy who had been following Vector all day, and says that this guy used to be Justin's manager, and was resentful because he couldn't make it as a singer. Because they awesomely figured him out, he runs away before Amy stops him, making me depressed that she has a hammer and says something new. This was much better than the issue of the Boom comic, that's for sure. Because here, it's not wasting your time depressing me by having Amy refuse to get good at anything but a stupid hammer, just because they're too frightened of changing the status quo in a show where Amy's unrecognizable anyways. What's the point of keeping her hammer at this point? But at least the show got distracted by Vector instead, making me hate Amy for sucking at bows when she has the word aim pronounced in her name. I guess Vector had to be portrayed as making mistakes a lot to pad out enough to make it a full episode where he figured things out at the very end, and not the middle. But I'm just so sick of him being portrayed as a joke by this point. He doesn't deserve that. It's not like Archie where he's a jerk. The entire fan base is sick of all Sonic's friends being shitty comedy relief. That's why they called them as shitty friends, other than them playing badly. And the show does the opposite of learn from that, when I thought it was about pandering to the fans. But at least it tries to take Vector seriously, with cool music and a badass black jacket, and giving him a high-paying reality show as a detective, giving him the success he deserves, because if they're gonna waste time making him a detective again, they should at least make him successful like you'd expect. And a natural part of the detective process is making mistakes until you get it right, I guess. Sonic was snarking at him to be an audience surrogate. It was a good episode, at least. It was creative and intriguing to follow the mystery and see who was guilty. I just wish we didn't see Knuckles give Amy all those appealing weapons just for her to be so close-minded that she wouldn't even try to learn how to use them. It would have been nice to see her use them in action scenes. I don't think this episode even had action scenes. I get that she's good at using her hammer, and that the hammer is iconic, and she's too much of a failure to know how to aim bows. But you'd think that she'd be able to handle a ray gun. She used one in Eggheads. Ray guns don't have recoil, so there'd be no training involved. Just point at something. I just really hate that beginning because it's so obviously tone deaf. The writing thinks it's being self-aware and agreeing with the fans, but any fan that's educated, or at least creative, would know that Amy doesn't have to just use a hammer. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard them saying stuff like that. This Amy's useless without it, but that can change. Anyone can swing a hammer if they're strong enough. It's so uncreative. So many continuities have her having a hammer. Why can't they just do something new? It's just so obvious that the stupid writer has no familiarity with Fleetway Amy, because no one in the right mind who read that comic would say that Amy can't be useful without her hammer. In the hands of a creative writer, he's not afraid to try something new. She could learn how to use the bow, a ray gun, or even a scepter with elemental power. The sky's the limit. With any character, not just Amy. But no, just make her swing a hammer around, because that never gets old, even though Tails used the hammer in Tails' Adventure. So why can't he use the hammer in the show, and Amy can use something else? Boom Amy is nothing like any of the other Amys, but she still has her pink hair and iconic hairstyle. So what's the point of keeping her hammer? They're loyal to that, but not her stupid red dress? They changed her dress because it's too old-fashioned, but her old-fashioned bob, that's gotta stay. We could never have Amy without her bob. Why, she'd be unrecognizable. They'd freak out if they saw classic Amy. As long as they keep her pink hair, I'm not closed-minded enough to get mad. Already I love her new outfit. Why can't she have an episode where she's using those weapons successfully? It'd be nice to see her fight robots with them to switch things up, but instead the show slaps away the focus on action that Sonic needs in favor of distracting us with Vector. How perfectly symbolic of the show, and how it appeals to nothing but a misaimed demographic. It shows you weapons, but it completely rejects them. Sonic X has the exact same problem. Most of its episodes were devoid of action until the very end where there's one fight scene, and in Season 3 it got the action balance perfectly. Sonic napped a lot in that show too. And there was a focus on one city and the characters that live in it. Well, here there's a focus on one village and the characters that live in it. 3 minutes or less. We start out with the heroes watching a TV show called Marsupial Crime Unit. They're actually too lazy to show us what was on the TV. Then they see a comedy chimp commercial about how they can place an order. Then Tails places a bunch of cards on top of each other and Sonic bothers Knuckles. Dave shows up 3 hours late, and Sonic reads a card that says they can give feedback on Medburger. Sonic says he could be a much better delivery person. Out of nowhere, while the manager wants him to be a delivery person, he's only going to pay him in chili dogs. But how much do chili dogs cost? Why does Sonic not want to work at his favorite restaurant at first? Why does he keep coming then? This episode is a wonderful use of Sonic's speed. An old man wastes Sonic's time because he's trying to find something. finally finds his wallet, and it was in his hand the whole time. Well, I'm smiling. Amy reveals she's got candles lit when Sonic shows up, and she says that she thought he'd like a break from work. At least Amy's nice to him in this episode, not a total contrast to him bickering with him being a jerk. So I can support these weird fanservice-y Son Amy moments here. But it's still so immature of Sonic to just panic and get out of the house after eating, because he's supposed to be cool. In AOSCH, Sonic made out with any girl he liked. Sonic then wastes my time having a commercial about himself, and Eggman plans on making sure he's late so he'll get it for free. Sonic shows up at Eggman's base, and Eggman brags amusingly, "Well, well, Sonic the Hedgehog delivering food to me." He's so petty. I have a big smile when he tells Sonic he has to get extra stuff for his food, and Sonic keeps getting it for him. He really didn't think this through, did he? He keeps getting increasingly flustered, as he says there's no ketchup on his fries, and Sonic's smug the whole time. Sonic then tells Dave that he's got a prank order. Eggman giggles behind a newspaper, and Sonic figures him out. Eggman plans to create chaos beyond anything Sonic could handle. I can predict the joke coming from a mile away. Since when am I smiling the whole time I see a Sonic Boom episode? Eggman says his complicated plan is that he'll attack Sonic when he leaves Madburger to make him late for his deliveries. Dave compliments Sonic for thinking he can make 3 deliveries on 3 different parts of the island in 3 minutes. Sonic easily just goes past the robots, though it's stupid that he just stands there listening to Knuckles when he tells him epically to just do the noble thing, and deliver queasy food to people who don't feel like leaving their homes. Like they could have been on a completely different part of the island if they were unlucky. So Eggman's Eggmobile crashes. I miss out on an action scene, but it was really generic and easy anyways, so whatever. Sonic gets guilt-tripped, and he uses his spin dash to cut the burgers. The leader tells me he can't expect him to pay full price for skimpy burgers. So Sonic offers him a discount or something? It'd be stupid if he got fired for that, let alone fired at all. Logically, he keeps his job for the entire show. And why didn't he just have it from the pilot? That'd be such an easy way to fill in the plot hole of how the heroes pay the rent. The giant robot gets defeated so quickly and easily that I had to rewind twice. Facetious is trapped in a cage inexplicably made of bamboo, and Eggman gets something covering his Eggmobile, so he loses control of it somehow and accidentally destroys his own robot, and Facetious gets freed. Huh? Sonic then knocks on a metal door that clearly has Eggman's logo on the side, and the person keeps talking like he's deaf, but eventually it's revealed to be Cubot. Sonic is expected to both defeat the massive army of robots and reach Eggman before a minute, or he'll get it for free. So Sonic spin dashes to defeat some of them in one hit. Even the Cowbot, which was way tougher than the last time it showed up. Good thing Eggman didn't put a nuclear coordinate this time, but it's so close to his base that would kill him, so... Then as Sonic keeps generically using his spin dash in a boring action scene that desperately needs its music, Sonic just falls over my Cubot into the base down the secret tunnel, so he gets Eggman his food in time. It was amusing that Eggman complained about it, and Orbot said, "There's a battle outside," and Eggman was like, "That's the point! Like, you're supposed to not be able to go in here." Sonic's presented with a 10 chili dog bonus. He says that this agreement is not agreeing with him, while Fleetway and AOSDH Sonic had ridiculous appetites, so this is a deviation. So somehow he quits instead of just asking for money, which, he's a hero who constantly fights Eggman. I'm pretty sure he could get paid. So the entire reason he was illegally made to work for chili dogs instead of money was to force the concept of this job being temporary for him. That's ridiculously forced. And the manager even acknowledges that he has plenty of money. But on the bright side, this was an episode where I was actually smiling through most of it. Not only was it amusing just how petty Eggman was trying to stall him to get free food, but this was an episode that fully took advantage of the fact that it was the Sonic franchise. Because naturally, Sonic's speed makes him the perfect delivery boy. They're taking advantage of the fantasy element of Sonic and doing a story only he could do. Or the Flash. The only problem he has is that he's too busy to fight Badniks. But somehow he's never late, even by the end where he just beats giant robots in one spin dash Sonic X style. The episode went out of its way to not give us proper action scenes. So it was lucky that for once, It was more than enjoyable enough to make that worth it. Realistically, Sonic would be too busy being a hero to be a delivery boy and would feel guilty about choosing that over heroing. So he would inevitably end up late because he'd feel obligated to help his friends in a fight that doesn't involve pathetic badniks for a change. But then again, maybe he wouldn't in Sonic Boom because he has so many friends who can fight robots that he's actually redundant as a hero. Even a giant robot could get beaten in one hit by Tails' plane. And the giant robot in this episode gets beaten because of a confusing blink or you'll miss it moment. Eggman gets food thrown onto the Eggmobile window, tries to clean it off with his glove, and accidentally presses buttons that ruins his whole plan. That was creative though. It was also brilliant how part of his most difficult delivery involves the guilt trippers. They're naturally the hardest customer on the island aside from Eggman. So this was a fantastic episode by Boom standards. It even managed to be good by doing what Boom always does and being mundane, because it combined fantasy with a perfect mundane job for Sonic.